For those of you who aren't familiar with Dacia, you can consider it the budget arm of Renault. And not only is the Sandero the cheapest car that Dacia make, it's also the cheapest car on sale in the UK. It's in a tough class though. The small car class is one of the most fiercely contested, with a huge number of models all vying for attention. There are three engines to choose from: a 1.2 litre non-turbo, a 0.9 litre turbo, both of which are petrols, and the 1.5 litre diesel. The 1.2 works best in and around town with a sharp throttle response, while the 0.9 litre is better once up to speed, but it feels a bit sluggish around town. The diesel engine has enough power and torque to feel at home wherever you take it. The Sandero isn't the sharpest car to drive. It suffers from body lean in tight corners and the steering is a little numb. This isn't necessarily a priority in this part of the market, but rivals just do it that little bit better. Handling is secure and predictable though. Ride quality is pretty poor, especially in and around town. The suspension struggles to soak up lumps and bumps in the road, and this is transferred to a cabin in which the Sandero's passengers are continuously jostled about. It improves on faster A roads, but expansion joints and undulating roads still unsettle it. Cabin refinement is exactly what you'd expect for a car of this price point. All versions suffer from lots of engine noise, and the diesel is particularly intrusive. Wind and road noise are also an issue at higher speeds. Fine-tuning the perfect driving position is pretty difficult. None of the Sanderos get reach adjustable steering wheel, and only the top spec version gets a height adjustment on the seat. It's not an especially comfortable seat either, with very little bolstering. Visibility is good all round. The windscreen pillars are nice and thin, so don't obstruct the view out, and the window line is kept at a sensible level to make pulling out at junctions and roundabouts just that little bit easier. The Sandero's rear pillars are pretty slim too, and the rear side windows are tall enough to offer a decent line of sight. Higher specification models get a fairly basic but functional infotainment system, but if you penny pinch and go for the entry-level car, you get nothing at all, not even a radio. There's a good optional system available on the top spec model, which isn't especially flash, but does the job brilliantly. The interior as a whole is a little bit old school. Some of the plastics used are from Clios from a couple of generations ago, so don't expect much in terms of soft touch areas or fancy detailing, especially when you're looking at lower spec models. It's a pretty dull cabin to behold. Everything feels extremely solidly put together. The top spec model adds some chrome accents, a leather gear lever and graphite coloured trim on the doors and dash, but it isn't much of a lift. Where the Sandero really leaves the rest of the small car class behind is in cabin space. The driver and front passenger have a huge amount of both leg and headroom up front, and enough shoulder room that it never feels claustrophobic. It's pretty much the same story in the back. There's generous amounts of headroom and a good legroom by small car standards. A middle passenger won't have a centre tunnel to straddle, but shoulder room is tight for 3 adults side by side. There's a decent sized glove box and useful cubby holes and door pockets all round the car, and the boot is an impressive 320 litres. There aren't any clever touches like a variable boot floor, but the space is pretty good enough for the weekly shop, and the opening is nice and wide. Although Dacia are pretty keen to stress the entry-level price of the Sandero, even basic kit levels are pretty Spartan. As we said before, the entry-level version doesn't even get a radio. The better equipped cars are still keenly priced though. Running costs are good. The Sandero's engines are relatively fuel efficient, returning up to 61.7 miles per gallon for the diesel and 42.8 miles per gallon for the 1.2 petrol. That's in our true MPG tests. It also resists depreciation well, but since it doesn't cost that much in the first place, you won't get much money back. Dacia hasn't been around long enough in the UK to feature in customer satisfaction surveys. As the Sandero is derived from older Renaults, its parts have at least been tried and tested, so reliability shouldn't be a worry. The 4-star Euro NCAP rating is worse than many rivals, but all Sanderos at least come with a tyre pressure monitor, emergency brake assist, stability control and 4 airbags as standard. The Sandero is a likeable car that offers more space and practicality than anything at the same price point. There are compromises, and the cheaper you go, the bigger they are, but they are acceptable ones given the price. For more information, search for the Dacia Sandero on whatcar.com, and to keep up to date with all our latest video road tests, click subscribe.